You don't need it as much as Jason does. My dad's words rang in my ears like a slap I never saw coming. I stood there in the kitchen, the scent of fresh coffee in the air, the morning sun casting soft light on the granite countertops. Everything looked peaceful, but my world was spinning. He had just given my MacBook Pro, my laptop, the one I'd worked all summer to buy, to my stepbrother like it was some second-hand hand-me-down. Jason sat across the table, smug as ever, not even pretending to feel awkward. He didn't look up from the screen. My screen. I gripped the edge of the counter, keeping my face calm. You serious, Dad? You can use the old one in the basement. Jason has more demanding classes, he said. That's when I realized this wasn't about logic. It was about loyalty. And clearly I was on the losing end. My name is Aiden Carter. I'm 19, a sophomore at UCLA majoring in computer engineering. Everything I've earned the hard way. No handouts, no shortcuts, just grit, late nights, and side gigs. That laptop was more than a piece of metal. It was my portal to coding contracts, freelance design work, and the app I'd been quietly building for months. I saved for it by tutoring high school kids in calculus, delivering groceries in the evenings, and fixing up people's busted phones on weekends. I still remember the day it arrived, silver, sleek, brand new. I unboxed it on the dining table with my mom's photo next to me. She passed when I was 15. That laptop was the first thing I ever bought entirely on my own. Dad remarried 2 years ago. That's when Jason, his new wife's son, entered the picture. He was the same age, but the opposite in every way. Spoiled, loud, messy, and entitled. He wasn't a bad guy, but he knew how to play my dad, make everything sound urgent and dramatic. I'll fail if I don't have the right gear. He'd whine, and my dad would cave every time. I didn't hate Jason. I just hated how easily I became invisible whenever he was around. My dad, Greg, used to be more grounded. But since marrying Monica, things shifted. Suddenly, fairness looked like sacrificing me to make their new, blended family work. I tried to adjust, but moments like this made me feel like an outsider in my own home. I even remember Grandma Elsie warning me one afternoon on the porch, "Sweetheart, you're going to have to protect what's yours in this world, even from people who say they love you." She handed me a glass of iced tea, her eyes watching Jason ride my old bike in circles. Being quiet doesn't mean you should be stepped on. I should have listened more carefully. Because that day, watching my dad dismiss my voice in favor of Jason's needs again, I knew something had changed in me. I wasn't just hurt. I was done. Later that night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the spot where my laptop used to sit. My fingers itched from the silence, like muscle memory still expected the keyboard beneath them. But then I remembered something. 2 weeks ago, Dad left town for a work trip and forgot to take his keys. Not just any keys, his extra set. The black fob with the Mercedes logo. I had tucked them in the back of my sock drawer, meaning to return them, but never did. I got up, opened the drawer, and there they were, right where I left them. Cold, heavy, powerful. You see, that wasn't just a car. It was his baby. A cherry red 2020 AMG C63, fully loaded. He barely let anyone breathe near it, much less touch it. Jason called it untouchable. But here's the thing. That car was registered in both our names. A detail Dad never corrected after a birthday surprise deal that went sideways last year. I still had the papers in my cloud storage. I printed them out slowly, stapled them neatly, and slid them into a manila folder. The next morning, I walked downstairs, calm as ever. Jason was bragging about installing his music plugins on my laptop. Dad was buttering toast. I waited until their noise faded and placed the folder gently on the table. "Actually," I said, "you both might want to look at this before we continue." Jason laughed like I had just told a joke. "What is this, some kind of school project?" he said, glancing at the folder but not reaching for it. Dad looked up, his butter knife halfway to his toast. "Aiden, come on. Don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Open the folder." Jason grabbed it with a dramatic sigh. His eyes scanned the page, and then narrowed. Dad leaned over his shoulder. "Wait," Dad muttered. eyes darting between the registration form and my face. This says you co-own the C63? Yeah, I said. Surprise. Dad's face flushed with confusion. How did that happen? You added me last year when you surprised me with the idea of sharing the car for my birthday, remember? The paperwork was never undone. That wasn't meant to be permanent, he said quickly. It was symbolic. Symbolic or not, I replied. Legally, it's mine too. Jason stood up, suddenly defensive. Okay, even if that's true, what are you saying? That you're gonna take Dad's car? For what? Revenge over a laptop. I looked at him. No. I'm going to use what I own. Just like you're using my laptop. Dad slammed his palm on the table. This is ridiculous, Aiden. You're escalating things over nothing. You're being difficult for no reason. This isn't how family handles problems. Exactly, I said, standing my ground. Family doesn't take from each other without asking and call it love. Monica walked in just then, sensing the tension. What's going on? Dad gave her a look. He's trying to punish us because we gave Jason his laptop. It's my laptop, I corrected. The one I bought. And I didn't come here to punish anyone. I came to reclaim balance. Jason scoffed. You're acting like some kind of hero. No, Jason. I'm just done being the quiet one. You're being selfish, Monica snapped. We've been trying to build this household together and, by taking from me, I shot back. Every time you've needed something from me, I gave it. Peace. Privacy. My bedroom when Jason had guests. Even my spot in the carpool. But the one thing I worked my butt off for? You took that too. That shut her up. Even Jason looked like he was starting to realize this wasn't just some tantrum. And then, from the hallway, someone cleared their throat. It was Uncle Marcus, Dad's brother. He had stopped by to return some tools, but judging by the look on his face, he had heard everything. Greg, he said carefully, I think maybe you should listen to him. Dad looked stunned. You're taking his side? Marcus nodded slowly. He's not yelling. He's not being disrespectful. He's just asking to be seen. That doesn't sound unreasonable. The room fell silent. Jason finally muttered, Fine. Keep your dumb car. It's not like it changes anything. It does, I said, grabbing the keys off the table. It changes how I move from here on out. I walked toward the door, heart pounding but eyes dry. I wasn't running away. I was reclaiming power, not through violence, not through shouting, but by using the same system they had used against me. As I opened the door, I heard Monica whisper, Greg, you did promise in that car, didn't you? I didn't look back. Because in that moment, I wasn't just leaving the house. I was stepping into my own future. The wind felt different once I was in the driver's seat. Not just because of the car, though yeah, the AMG purred like a lion even before I touched the gas, but because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I didn't floor it. I just drove. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere mine. I ended up in an old parking lot behind Hillview College, where I used to sneak off after long shifts at the coffee shop, just to think. I pulled the car into a spot and just sat there, hands on the wheel, letting the silence talk to me. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Uncle Marcus. Proud of you. Keep walking with calm power. They'll catch up, or they won't. Either way, stay grounded. I stared at it longer than I expected to. He didn't have to pick sides earlier, but he did. And maybe it was small, but it reminded me that I wasn't crazy for wanting respect. The next few days were quiet at home. No one called. No one texted. And honestly, that was fine. Because I was finally giving myself the energy I used to give to them. I started applying for remote internships in digital design, using the backup laptop I had from my community college days. It wasn't as powerful, but it worked. And more importantly, it reminded me, I built myself once. I could do it again. A week later, I got an email that changed everything. Covaltech, a fast-growing startup in Oregon, had seen my portfolio and wanted to do a video call. Your UI concepts are fire, the creative lead said during the Zoom. Raw, but intuitive. You have a good instinct. When she asked about my tools, I was honest. I told her about the stolen laptop, about building everything from scratch again. I figured it would make me look weak. But she just smiled. Sounds like you've got more resilience than most of our senior designers. I got the offer 2 days later, fully remote, generous pay with a gear stipend. The first thing I did? I bought myself a brand new MacBook Pro, this time with an engraving. Built. Not borrowed. It arrived the following week. I didn't rub it in Jason's face. I didn't send photos or make some passive-aggressive Instagram story. That wasn't the point. The point was I didn't need to prove anything to them anymore. I was building for me now. That same week, I ran into Jasmine, a girl I used to work with at the cafe. She'd always been kind, quiet, but sharp as hell. We talked for 10 minutes that turned into 2 hours over matcha lattes. She'd been starting a freelance collective for digital artists and asked if I wanted to be part of it. I know how it feels to not be taken seriously, she said. But I see you. Her words stayed with me. Later that night, I got a text from Dad. Can we talk? I waited an hour before responding. We can. But I set the terms now. We met at a diner across town. Neutral ground. I didn't bring any documents. No keys. Just myself. He looked tired, not broken, but cracked in ways I hadn't seen before. I didn't handle things right, he admitted. I was trying to create balance between my sons, and I lost track of what fairness really means. I sipped my coffee. I wasn't asking to be your favorite. I just wanted to be respected. I see that now, he said quietly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a flash drive. Your old files. I backed them up when I realized what I'd allowed to happen. I know it's not everything, but it's what I could recover. That hit different. I took the drive. Not as forgiveness, but as acknowledgement. Thanks, I said. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just sat there, 2 men trying to rebuild something they both damaged. And for once, there was no pressure to solve it all at once. The next morning, I saw Monica quietly gathering brochures off the dining table. Therapy. Family counseling. She didn't say anything, but she nodded when I walked in. Even Jason had started to change. Not a total transformation, but quieter. He gave me space. He even returned the laptop, awkwardly, like it burned his hands. I didn't take it back. I had already outgrown it. Because the real upgrade wasn't in RAM or pixels. It was me. 3 months later, everything looked different, not just around me, but within me. My bedroom, once a cramped mess of wires and posters, was now a clean, focused space. A standing desk, an ergonomic chair, soft LED lights set to sunrise. My engraved MacBook stood like a quiet warrior in the center, flanked by sketch pads and a tiny succulent I named Rogue. My morning started with quiet tea instead of chaos. No more yelling from downstairs, no more bitterness at breakfast. Monica had decided to rent a place closer to her job, and Jason went with her. I didn't ask for them to leave. I didn't demand space. But they understood it was time. Dad and I had a standing Sunday coffee now. No agendas. No big apologies. Just 2 people relearning how to speak without wounds doing the talking. He didn't always get it right. He still stumbled, still caught in his old patterns sometimes, but I noticed the effort. Like how he bought a used drawing tablet for my little cousin who'd taken an interest in design. He told her, "Your ideas matter." I saw myself in that moment, years ago, wishing someone had said that to me. And now, I was the one saying it to others. I was officially 6 weeks into my new role with Covaltech, and it was more than a job, it was a portal. My ideas were being seen. My skills were being sharpened. I had just finished leading my first mini project, a mental health app designed for college students, using soothing design and smart daily prompts. At the launch meeting, our creative lead said, "This one feels personal." Who led this flow? I raised my hand. "It is personal," I said. Everyone nodded. They felt it. Outside work, I had joined Jasmine's collective, too. We weren't just freelancing, we were teaching, hosting free online sessions for young BIPOC creatives who couldn't afford design school. We called it Render Justice. One Thursday evening, while preparing a presentation on emotional storytelling and interface, I found myself pulling up an old email draft I never sent, The one I'd written the night Dad gave my laptop away. The subject line was, "You broke something." But now I hit delete. Because he didn't break me. He just revealed where the cracks were, and I was the one who filled them with gold. Later that month, we hosted an outdoor community event, a blend of an art show, career Q&A, and block party. Jasmine painted live. I showcased student portfolios on a projector. The local news even did a small story. A young boy, maybe 12, came up to me and asked, "How do you get good at this?" I smiled. Because someone tried to take it away from me, and I had to fight to keep it. He nodded like he understood more than he should have at that age. As the sun dipped behind the buildings, casting a warm orange glow across the pavement, I looked around. Laughter. Music. Art. People growing. And then I remembered something Uncle Marcus told me years ago, standing by his old grill with a cold beer in his hand. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is not what you take, it's what you build after they take from you. I was living proof of that. I didn't need Dad's validation. I didn't need Jason to say sorry. I didn't even need the laptop anymore. Because I'd taken something they never expected, my power back, and I turned it into legacy. I looked down at my hands, steady on the keyboard of my new machine, heart full of purpose. The same hands that once shook with anger were now building platforms, telling stories, empowering others. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was rebirth. And as I sipped the last of my tea, the early summer wind blew in through the open window, carrying with it a scent of wild jasmine and clean earth. A reminder that healing was no longer a destination. It was home.